Hello and welcome to Devlog number 9. We have willbert all set up. A lot was done, to be honest, this week. A lot was done because I feel like I'm kind of behind and I need to go a bit quicker. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm going to start off by showing how willbert is set up. It's just a prefab. He exists, it's a 3D prefab because obviously that's kind of how I wanted him to look. 3D prefab in a 2D space, which I thought looked fun. He just has two cubes and a spotlight to give him that shadow that you can see, which I think looks great. The next thing is the render texture. There's a few things I had to do. I exported him out of Blender, and then all of the things are on a preview 3D, is what I've named it. They're on a layer. They're on their own layer, so that the willbert camera can pick it up. So how the camera works is firstly it has the target texture set to the willbert one that I've made, and the culling mask is set to preview 3D, meaning it only sees the things from that are tagged with that layer. But it wasn't really too much setup. The next thing is my actual scripts. So first I'll start with my new dialog line.cs. This is a scriptable object script where I make my own data type. Has a bunch of different parameters. The first one being willbert's text, so what he's kind of saying up here. The next few being some parameters that I need for the text that actually appears. Has response is delayed and delay time, pretty self-explanatory. And then each of the two response buttons have their own set of parameters that will be changed using scripts. I did realize while making this that my system is actually missing a core part of my plan, where technically each question has 4 responses, but you are only shown 2 of the responses based on the fear scores you get from phase 1 of the game. So to clarify, phase 1 is that would you rather test on the web page thing that isn't made yet. So it should take the top 2 scoring fears from that, use those scores and show you those answers. Obviously there's some stuff missing, but I do have the basics of the system working. I do have a fear manager which stores those values. So I have an enum to set up just like a list. I'm using key pairs to create my fear list. They are all assigned numbers, but that was just for the sake of testing. They'll just normally be 0. I do have a fear type which is none. I recognize I don't need that, and that I can just set it to 0 in the inspector because that's kind of the whole point, but I just liked having it set to none because it was more organized, has some debug stuff, and then this increased fear amount is what I needed to actually increase the fear. It says what fear should go up, and all of that stuff is in the inspector as well. And then get higher stat is kind of getting me closer to my original idea / the idea I'm working towards, where I have to get the higher stats and then ask those, but I haven't actually done anything with it yet. But it's there for when I need it. Then this is just a debug thing that I don't actually need anymore. But moving on to the dialogue system, it isn't too complicated. The first thing is just start new dialogue. I'm making a variable called current dialogue line up here, setting that to new dialogue, and then that is used basically. I have to check whether or not the data type is delayed set to true, so I can show you some of the data here. For example, this starting line has response is yes, which means these boxes will be changed and then set to active as well, but there is no delay. But for example, this one has a delay of delay time of 5. If I go back to the script, if there's a delay, then we're going to start a coroutine. Not 100% sure this coroutine is correct. I think it is. If there's a delay, starts a coroutine which just has a delay and then it replaces the text. Replace text is pretty self-explanatory. The text that's in the scene gets replaced with what's been assigned in the data type. Like I said before, the buttons will be set active, true or false based on whether or not you can respond, whether or not has responses ticked, and then choose response 01 and choose response 02 So here is where I'm using the fear manager and increase fear amount based on what has been assigned in the inspector. Then it's just starting a new dialogue based on what data type has been plugged in. So current dialog line dot response 01 dialog is this box basically, and then for number 2 it is this box. So that's the dialog system. It's not very complicated. Then the final thing is my story manager. This will probably get a lot longer as time goes on, but currently it just exists as a means to start the system, start the dialogue system, and just kind of get the ball rolling. That was kind of quick, but I whizzed through everything. That's basically it. I do need to next work on the system I mentioned at the start, where every question has 4 answers and it just chooses which answers to actually present to you. But I can quickly demo how it looks. Willbert doesn't actually appear here. I am yet to figure that out why, but not important. Choose answer 01. I can't wait. Answer some questions, and now it's time for the delay. So during this time there can be pop-ups, or the delay will be like a lot longer, maybe even a few minutes, whilst you're meant to be doing other things later on down the line. But that's the delay. That's basically it. So yeah, it's a simple system, but it does what I need it to do, and it looks nicer than the dialogue, the chat app. I think it's more fun than the chat app. I had more fun making it. I think the chat app was kind of miserable, but Boba is fun. He looks so nice and he can speak. So yeah, that is it for this one. Bye.